And today on Talking Gearheads, we have our guest, Bill Ellison, president of the Lamborghini Club of Houston, and a lot of good stuff to say today. Bill, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me today. I truly appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. So tell me, how does one become the president of the Lamborghini Club of Houston?
Well, so I was actually asked to consider taking over as president 3 years ago. So this is my third year.
Has it been 3 years already?
It's been 3 years. Yeah,
it feels like last week.
Yeah, it's we had COVID, so there was that too. So there wasn't a whole lot going on. We still try to make sure that we are out there doing things and moving around as much as we can, and trying to be seen representing the brand.
And of course, as our little podcast here, Talking Gearheads, it's about car guys. And to be the president of the Lamborghini Club, that you got to be a pretty serious car guy to do that.
Well, brand ambassador, I think, is more, and I'm a multi-brand owner, as you well know. And so it's not so much just one brand, but we are pretty particular to the Lamborghini itself brand. And having, several cars, and have had several cars over the years, it puts you kind of in a different light than somebody who's got one car. Maybe they got one car and they've only ever had one car.
So having had many cars, how did you come to Lamborghini versus what you've done before?
So I don't want to say negative things about Ferrari, the other brand that I definitely own, but Ferrari is just not as loud and obnoxious as what Lamborghini is. So Lamborghini is very much a very loud and loud and proud brand. And
it's about creating excitement.
It most definitely. I think it's a much more exciting brand now. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love driving one of my Ferraris to a nice dinner, or even being able to sneak into my driveway at night when we come in at 10:30, 11 o'clock without blowing all the neighbors' ears up.
You have that problem too.
We do.
Gosh, I'll talk to you about HOAs later, but yeah.
we don't have much problem with from an HOA standpoint, but just the neighbors, all the keyboard warriors of today, that they've all got something to say online, but they'll never come and knock on your door and just get to know you.
No, not for a second. Yeah, I had them complain about me having the light on in my garage. Literally, they recorded it and reported it to the HOA, and it's been going on for hours, and their lights on again at all hours of the night. And when they presented it at the board meeting, I said, does the time on there say 7:57 p.m.? Oh yeah. So it wasn't even 8 o'clock yet. And how long was it noise like that? Oh, for at least 3 or 4 minutes.
Interesting. So, and you're on acreage, aren't you?
Acreage, yeah.
And somebody's worried about that, and on your whether your garage light is on.
Yeah.
Now, is this the outside light or inside when your garage door is up and the inside light?
Garage door is up. The car was running. The garage door is up. Car was running. Pulled it in. It's idling because I was having some trim issues on the fuel injector, so I had to bump it a few times. Vroom, vroom.
On acreage.
On acreage.
Not in a neighborhood where you got a house 10 feet away.
Oh, and you should have seen the video. He was recording on his iPad, and you could see him running out of his house, down his driveway, a solid 200 feet to the fence, to record across the street another 300 feet plus.
So what was it? So curiosity has just got me going crazy right now. What was the outcome of this?
Go away.
The HOA?
The HOA said, okay, we see your point. I said, look, if it's that big a deal, I understand, but everything this guy's complaining about is so vapid, superficial, and inconsequential on any level, because they could hear a little bit of a inside their house while they were watching a TV show.
So now every single time you come home, do you rev before you shut your garage door?
With every car I own.
I do too. I do have one of these special California neighbors.
Oh, those are the best, aren't they?
Yeah, everything was fine for several years. We've lived next to each other for about 12 or 13 years.
Oh, well, so you should know.
About 4 or 5 years ago, all of a sudden, I have no idea what happened. They just kind of snapped, and so every single time it was, they want to say something about my loud cars. And so, like, literally every single time I go home now, I give it a couple of good strong revs. Once I back into the garage and it really reverberates, then, especially on the Aventador or the Huracan that's got really loud exhaust.
Yeah, they do.
So, yeah.
STO, baby.
I like to make sure that they know we're home.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. See, because to our fellow automotive enthusiasts, you're not the only ones who suffer this.
It's interesting. The one neighbor in 15 years, we've not had, no real issues.
There you go. I love that. So, talk to me more about, as a car guy, Lamborghini Club, Lamborghini. What was the progression to get to the Lamborghini? Because very few people go straight to Lamborghini.
So, it was all about a sales opportunity that Ferrari out in California missed. So when the 3 Ferraris that I've owned, I've bought all of them from here in Houston, from Ferrari of Houston, and Tony Novati, who you know, we've been friends for almost 25 years. We've known each other for a very long time. And so we were happy to be out in California and looking around, just out messing around, and we went into Ferrari. And the dealership, the guys there completely snubbed us. Now, I'm in shorts and flip-flops. We're driving up in a Kia or a Hyundai or something, right? Yeah. But we're out there on vacation.
Yeah, clearly.
I think I flew out and met my wife. She was out there on work at the time. I flew out and met her, and then we spent the weekend in the Newport Beach area.
Nice weekend.
It was nice. And so we go into Ferrari, and they're, like, completely won't talk to me. Literally would not say a boo. And so then we go over to Lamborghini, and Lamborghini, the salesman there, a guy named Jeremy Hagan. Hey man, come on in. Let's go in here. We're gonna start some cars. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna go for a ride. We're gonna do this, and the excitement of it. And we were like, oh my God.
He treated you like a human being,
and it was fun, right? It was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I needed to be in a business suit and a big tie or anything to be able to say, hey man, I just had a really, really good time.
So right away, your introduction to the brand was
excitement,
having excitement and having a good time. No judgments, no snottiness, no looking down the nose at you for not being Ferrari.
Had never met this guy before. He had no idea who I was. I had no idea who he was. He was just a great person. Since then, we have bought 4 cars, from out there. We've bought several cars from here in Houston as well. But, that was the first Lamborghini that we bought, was out there. We bought that car, shipped it home. It was home a week later. And then a couple years later, he calls me up and he starts telling me about, now this was a 14 Gallardo, black and white little Spider. Matter of fact, I'm looking for that car if anybody knows where it is.
Yeah, I saw it post.
The car's up in South Carolina somewhere, and we're I'm looking for it. So if anybody actually can find that car and the owner of it, I'm looking to probably buy that back. So
have you talked to Kevin? Kevin Howarth of Underground Racing?
No, I haven't talked to Kevin.
He lives in Charlotte.
No, but I know Kevin, but I'll reach out to him and see if he might know who it is in that area. So a couple years later, Jeremy calls me and says, "Hey man, I just got this black matte Aventador. It's really nasty looking, and you should really look at it." Oh man, I don't. We want to keep the Gallardo, and my wife likes the car, and we thought we'd keep it. He goes, No, Bill, you need 2 Lamborghinis,
my man.
And of course I'm saying, oh man, no, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. I said, no way, I can't afford 2 Lamborghinis. Who in the world has got 2 Lamborghinis?
Who on the world?
So how much is it?
But while you're asking,
it was at my house a week later.
Ah, yes. Because that's funny. When I first opened Euroworld, one of the first cars we took in was a matte black Aventador, and it was kind of a celebrity-owned car. The owner was a well-known director and scriptwriter out of Hollywood. And I found out a year after I moved the shop out to another place on Post Oak, I found out a year later that people were looking for that car because this particular guy was one of several matte black cars he owned, all of them exotic, all of them. It was an early production Aventador. He'd stopped payment on all of them and was hiding the cars. I knew where they were hidden, and people were looking for it.
Interesting.
And they said, Frankie, if you know anything, somebody's offering money to find them. I said, nice to know.
I don't know where the cars are. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wasn't born a snitch. So I mean, a lot of funny situations like that in the exotic car industry as I've experienced in my time. I mean, but I'm sure you have a story or two with some oddness that's come your way.
No, I have exciting stories.
Well, that's good. That's better.
Things that have happened over time. So nothing that nothing bad that I'd ever want to share. That would put anybody in a negative light.
Oh, I'm not about to mention anybody's name here because someone would come knock on my door that I don't want to meet. I don't want to do that. But no. So, gosh, so that was your first one. That was how many years ago was that?
That was in. We bought the Gallardo in 2014. It was the last production car that they had there at that dealership at Lamborghini Newport Beach.
2014. That was the end of the run.
That was the end of the run of the Gallardo,
Yeah.
and that was the last one before they started receiving the Huracans in.
Well, I tell you, that second generation Gallardo, I've driven a few of those, worked on a few, and the level of refinement of that second gen car was pretty significant.
It was a good car. It was a really good car, and I say the little Gallardo now because I've had Aventador and the Aventador is my big boy car. I really love that car, but that little Gallardo was a really good little car too.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got my first gen. It's turbocharged. Even though I sometimes complain about it being so powerful, I still love the thing, and you're gonna have to pry it from my cold dead hands. I mean, I'll give up owning a new car to keep that car. I like it that much.
Yeah. Yeah, and if there's nothing wrong with it, I mean, for the most part, then just keep it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
Yeah,
and that's my thing.
They become irreplaceable.
Yeah, it's important, and I, as much as I don't want to be perceived or thought of as a hoarder or even a collector, because I'm not into collecting things. If I bought something, it's because I like it and I plan on driving it and I drive it. I've owned a couple of Ferraris, and both times I sold them because I was offered way more money than I paid for them. And the last one I sold, I remember sitting there thinking, I'm going to miss that car, but I know I'm doing the right thing, the mature thing. And sure enough, I still think about that car. Like, man, that was a really good car.
I think all the way back to when I was 15, 16 years old, when I had a 69 Chevelle, when I had a 65 Mustang, and when I had a 78 280Z. I've had a plethora of cars over the years. So I think about all those cars still today.
To this day, yeah. So you've been a car guy since you could drive, or if not sooner.
Since before I could drive, before I could legally drive.
So let's talk about that first car. What was it, the Mustang or the Chevelle? I forgot.
No, so the 69 Chevelle was the very first car that I had.
All right, tell us about the 69 Chevelle.
So the 69 Chevelle was a body that me and a buddy went on. We paid $150 for this body of this car that had no motor and transmission. And then we went to a salvage yard, got the motor, transmission, put the car together, and had a running car.
You built this thing from scratch as a teenager.
Not necessarily built it from scratch, but rebuilt, put it back together. It's basically we had to get the wiring and stuff, and everything was all salvage that we did. So we put it back together at 15 years old. Me and a buddy of mine who was 16, so he could drive me around, and we kept the car at his house the entire time. But I paid for the body of the car. We split the money on the motor and transmission, put it all back together. Ultimately, he got the car when I got my 65 Mustang. So my 65 Mustang, which was about a year later, I was just beginning to drive. I traded my uncle a little 410 single shot shotgun and $50 for this 65 Mustang, running Mustang. It was a secretary car though. It was the little straight inline six.
Okay.
So
I'm impressed you built your first car. And I know you say reassemble, but that's building. You even had to install your own wiring harness. Bill, that is built a car.
So, I was and still am very mechanically inclined in anything. I can figure anything out, and it really wasn't a difficult thing to do back then, right?
Things were simpler for sure.
You're talking about 1986 is what you're talking about. Things were way different than what they are with cars and technology today.
And cars from the 60s, way simpler. Yeah.
A breeze to work on, in comparison.
Where an actual electrical connection resulted in an actual electrical event.
Yes. True enough.
Not a micro signal to a computer that decided to approve the signal and send it down the line to allow something to eventually happen.
That just gets too deep for me
there. No, it's still a source of frustration for me. Like, wow, here's one for you. So my wife drives Panamera. She loves this car. We're at 99,000 plus miles on it since new. She doesn't desire any other new car. So when I recently did the transformation, the Stormtrooper transformation with the colors and the wraps and the tents and the custom wheels and everything, I'll happily do it because the car's been paid for like 3 years.
Yeah.
I haven't made a payment in years. So how much money for all this? Sure. Way cheaper.
Easy stuff.
Yeah, easy. And so she's very pleased with it. And it finally had like the first actual issue I think we've really had with the car since new. And it was the parking brake. EPB code, electronic parking brake. Like, oh, okay, well, plug in my computer, let's go to work. And it wouldn't respond to my computer. Go online, do a little research, and sure enough, the one thing on this car that will not respond to an aftermarket computer, electronic parking brake.
Interesting.
And there's a couple of different ways to cure it, but even the easiest way involves, or even the least technical way involves this thing coming off and on a 2-post lift 3 times to readjust the pads inside the shoe, then sending the signal then going to drive the car. But the car has to recognize the signal from the official Porsche computer, or just simply reset it by using the Porsche computer that's connected to the Porsche servers in Germany during the reset process.
Huh.
That car's been at a dealership now for 2 days for that reset to be done.
For the reset to be done, or for them to do the repair and on and off the lift kind of thing?
To reset it. Which means one of their processes didn't work and they had to go engage one of the other processes. Because ultimately, if you have the computer, it's about a 15-minute process. If you have the computer that can connect to the servers in Germany and do the thing. But my point in stating that is, a parking brake, really? That's the thing I have to send it to the dealership for? A parking brake?
Well, the good thing is it's not something, it's in effect, it's a minor issue.
Well, that's just it.
The only thing it's going to do is it's going to stop you from getting inspected.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, how long have we been using handles with cables? About 100+ years.
Yeah.
Work without fail. Minor adjustments every 50,000 miles. I've never had a parking brake failure.
Wow.
But this electronic fritzes out and goes into reset mode or service mode and won't work. And now, bing, every 5 seconds it just comes up. Even when it's already up, it still bings at you every 5 seconds.
Still annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you want to light the car on fire. Call the insurance company. Parking brake, burn the car down.
Yeah, it must have got really hot.
So, all right, as a teenager, all right, having that kind of initiative to just go for it. Let's buy a body. Let's buy transmission and motor and harness. We can figure this out.
Basically, that's exactly what we did, and it was literally the two of us. His dad never helped. I didn't have a father that was around, so it was literally just the two of us. And there was no Google.
No, there was not.
There was no YouTube to figure things out. In 1986.
There was not a YouTube video to refer to.
There wasn't. Literally nothing at all.
Did you ever buy those manuals? The Hayes manuals.
I can't remember what even the name of them were.
There's Hayes and Mitchell, yeah.
But you could literally go down to AutoZone and get the different ones. So yes, we had those. And
remember how uninformative those things were?
Yeah, it didn't tell you how to put a transmission in. It didn't tell you how to stab it. It didn't tell you how to make sure that the drive shaft was the correct length of the drive shaft. It didn't tell you all those kind of things. But you're back in the old school days when you had to figure things out or go to what was called pick apart at the time.
I remember those well. Yeah, in other words, they told you how to do it, but there's a significant amount of knowledge presumed that you had coming into the equation.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time I bought one, I've got this covered. I've got a box of tools and a manual. How can I lose? I didn't get 5 minutes into how am I supposed to know that?
Well, at least you didn't get to the throwing wrenches part.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of wrenches thrown.
I think a lot of us back then have been in that position.
Oh, chipped brick walls. Nothing glass, but yeah, I have dented a fender. Man. Oh,
been there and done that.
So many failures.
Been there and done that.
Very long list of failures. And so as a teenager, at what point, to be a car guy, the reality is it takes a certain financial ability. So how did you overcome that over time to be able to progress up the automotive ladder, if you will, as far as nicer cars and powerful cars? I mean, like you said, if you didn't have a father, didn't have the internet, how did you survive? How did you?
So, I have the gift of the ability of I'm inquisitive about everything, and I can figure things out. I'm extremely mechanically inclined when it comes to the older school stuff. Today, I don't have to. Right. And so therefore I prefer not to. My time is better spent doing other stuff rather than turning wrenches. But if I had to, I could definitely, go back and figure things back out again. And
that's the thing with modern cars. When it comes down to the mechanics of it, it's not much new under the sun down there.
No, not
Still
not the actual mechanical part of it.
Yeah, there's not.
Right. It's all the electronic part of it that's a little bit more difficult.
It's a motor, it's a transmission, suspension, components that bolt together.
Yeah.
You're chasing an electronic issue 90% of the time, and if it's an error code you're chasing, 75% of the time, that code, the problem with the code won't be the actual problem. It'll be the sensor is bad that's reporting that code. 75% of the time.
Yeah.
And so on the one hand, it's cheaper because they're just replacing a sensor, not the transmission or the crankshaft. But
still, getting somebody to look at it is $125 or $225 an hour.
$175 for me.
Well, just it depends on the type of car. Oh, yeah. Whether you're going to Infiniti or a Ford, or whether you're going to to the exotic world.
But even a Ford, they want 150. Dodge.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So anyway, at Infiniti at 125 versus you guys at or a dealership, this might be 300.
Well over 200 at the dealership.
Yeah.
In fact, Porsche just went up to 210 or 220. And so I'm the discount at 175.
Yeah.
But I spent $75,000 on computers, so
and lots of years of experience to be able to
take the classes, pay for that too.
Yeah.
They charge separate for that.
Yeah. It's not all free.
Yeah.
It's not all free.
And how many classes can you attend this year? We have 5 to attend, but I have customers who want their cars fixed.
Yeah, I might need time in there to do that.
Yeah. And my wife's wondering when vacation is. And my daughter has another horse show. And, okay, is it online? No. I'll do it online in between podcasts. So, I mean, to achieve everything you've achieved, tremendous demands on your time. What would be your advice to someone who's trying to manage it all?
Well, the time issue is a non-start when we start talking about that from my standpoint. So, the people who know my story. We were homeless when I was 8, 9 years old. Literally came from nothing. I moved out whenever I was 16 years old. Never looked back. Worked 3 jobs and went to school and still graduated high school at 17 years old. I went to school in the morning. I worked at IBM in the afternoon. I worked at a Mexican restaurant in the evening. And when I wasn't working at the Mexican restaurant on the weekends, I was delivering pizzas for Domino's. So I literally know nothing but work at this point. And still, even today, I don't have to work today, but I still work 100 plus hours a week. So when somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, Bill, how can I get to where you are?" Well, I've got 30 years, of in the industry that I'm in, of hustling, but I've got almost 40 years, 35 years of hustling and working 100 plus hours a week, basically my entire life, and I still do today. And so so when somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, well, yeah, I'm working, oh my God, it's 40 hours a week." Okay, well, go get another job and work 80 hours a week. Do you really want it? You have to make sacrifices. You can't attend every baseball game. You can't attend every theater class, every equestrian ride. You can't attend everything if you want to get to that successful level. You have to put in and you have to sacrifice, and nobody's going to give it to you. And I've literally never had my hand out. Never as an adult or since I moved out of my home at 16. Never been on welfare. Never been on any government assistance. Everything has always been that I've worked, me and my wife today have worked for to get to the point that we're at today.
See, now this is a story I can't say often enough, just because I say it and I say it and I say it, and I'm blown away at the number of people who just don't think it's possible. And I mean, to have a living example, and I feel there, and I've tried to have these living examples on my podcast. Young Alec Udell, mommy and daddy were well off enough to cover an aspect of it, but his abilities in cars far outstripped his parents' ability to pay for it long ago.
Alec's a great guy. I mean, he's a great. I remember when he was a young kid, and I would see him out at Market Street, and he's got his headphones in, and he's running. He's just running around. I mean, he's racing himself.
He's training, yeah.
Is what he was doing, in over at Market Street.
Yeah.
So
well, even when he raced, he worked a full-time internship during the race season when he wasn't working full-time and going to school full-time in the off-season and still squeezing in testing.
Yeah.
So when people say he was handed to him, I'm a witness to it.
No, he was working. He hustled. That's exactly right.
Every dollar he hustled. Yeah. And, of course, like Eric Worrell, if you saw that podcast, he had to go work a second job just to be able to keep his job at Lamborghini. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that part of it, but I had known some of the history of that.
Well, when he had to go work up north, because it's cold 9 months out of the year up there, and to have the guaranteed income of the job up there, they had to spend this number of hours in the shop just to be available. And they say the vast majority of the time we're doing nothing, but we have to be there to get half their pay rate guaranteed. And so from there, he would leave and drive the 2 hours back to his home, changing clothes, and put the sign on top of his car and start delivering pizzas.
Eric's a hard worker. Eric's a really, really good guy. Several of your guests that you had, I've known for many years, and Eric is another one that he's a really down to earth, genuine guy that has come from not a whole lot to get to the point that he's at today. Right,
and so that's why I try and have everybody I have on here. Wait till you see the podcast with William Whiteman. He got a good story too, and so even Anthony Sanchez.
Anthony's got a great story.
Tell me he doesn't hustle like there's no tomorrow.
And he does. I mean, he is really, really doing well, especially with car culture, and everything that he puts together and what he's doing, and he does it very nicely. And honestly, I mean, it's all honest work from his standpoint.
And so anyway, that's kind of the theme I'm trying to work here at the podcast. Not we're talking gearheads, but everyone I know is a hustler.
Yeah,
there ain't no lazy people in this industry.
Well, and we try to attend a variety of events.
Yes.
That we try to make our way around town. We're not always just at Market Street, by the way.
Yeah.
But
you want to talk about that? Some of the events coming up here.
Sure. So this weekend, I'm not sure if this will air before that, but
probably not. But the point is, there's events, but let's talk about the charity aspect of what we're doing, because we don't just go to these shows to go to shows. Very often there's a collection for charity of some sort.
Yes, just in general, especially coming around the holidays. So we've got there's always some kind of a charity that is involved. But we've got Lamborghini Festival coming up.
Oh, that's right.
In October.
Yep.
Last year we had Make-A-Wish was our beneficiary, and we were able to write them a check for a little over $85,000. End
of a weekend.
For a 3-day event, but it's really for only a 1 evening event.
Okay.
So Friday generally in our Lamborghini Festival, Friday is arrival and some kind of a get together or a kickoff party. Saturday morning is usually a quick little breakfast or a grab and go, a drive, a lunch. Get ready for the evening, and then the big evening event. And that was the big evening event that we had this last year. Was a pretty big deal. We brought in some really great talent, which was originally they were from the Ukraine, but they're entertainment venue called Light Balance.
I saw some of the video from that. It was spectacular looking.
Turned out really, really great. Really great. So, we have that event in the evening on Saturday, and then Sunday morning we start staging cars and have the show the rest of the day on Sundays. And we'll do that that will be this October as well. We haven't announced the date yet, but we're really close to announcing the date.
Awesome. So how many what was I going to ask? Oh, I had a really important question relating to that. How many years have this been going on now?
The festival, this is our 10th year. So Colleen and I, so I'm the president of the Lamborghini Club. My wife Colleen is the vice president. And our other people that are on our board are Aaron Ogden with IX Exotics, Josh George with Mod Mafia, and James Berry, who is the newest addition to our leadership team, who is he's an investment guy. He does some investments and stuff. Fresh guy, fresh out of the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah. I saw the post about him. I looked at his profile. He's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
He wears the funny outfits and flexes for the camera.
he's always got a tank top on.
Like Matthew McConaughey. Do a lot better if we took our shirts off. Not this one, no. So, I mean, so let's talk about a little bit more about the hustle. Because, I mean, I can't say that message hard enough, long enough. I think it's one of the most important messages that's lost on young society today. I mean, you need to learn it to understand that success is not handed to anybody, and that everybody has to do their part to earn what they're going to do in life. And so, let's talk a little bit about so you're in construction, you say, and so how did you find your way into that industry?
So, interesting story. I eventually, after I was able to, so I worked 3 jobs till I could only have to work 2, and I worked 2 jobs until I could only have to work 1, so I could afford financially to be able to only have to work 1 job. And my boss at the time, his name was Doug Bradley. I was working for an environmental company. I was traveling all over the United States, setting up and installing computer systems for an environmental company. He came to me and said, "Bill, you know what? You need to be in sales." I'm like, "Sales? Oh, no. I couldn't sell anything."
I'm a worker.
He's like, no. But you have the gift of conversation. You can talk to the guy on the street, the president of the United States. It doesn't matter because you don't see a difference in the two. And because I don't see the difference in the two even today. It doesn't really matter to me.
They're people.
Well, you put your boots on just the same way I do every single day. And so he introduced me to a gentleman named George Reno, who is the president of a home building company here in Houston. George couldn't stop laughing because I wouldn't shut up. Just, kind of it's what I do. And so George hired me on the spot. So I went from a comfortable salaried position to a 100% commission job that was 0 salary and 100% on only my abilities to have a conversation, develop a relationship with someone, and convince them that what I was selling was what they needed.
And what responsibilities were you carrying at the time you took on that job?
Actually, I was freshly divorced. Literally, the November 1st of that year was my divorce was final. My father my father in name had just died, and had started paying an outrageous amount of child support back in the early '90s with 2 children that I had with my previous wife, and then changing jobs. So the stress level was here. Is
I
what
can't
it was.
imagine.
Now at the time, I'm living in a double wide trailer and driving a single cab pickup stick. So
and how old were you when this happened?
This was 23, 24 years old.
You had gone that far by the age of 23 with a wife and kids.
I married. Was then the girl that I was dating in high school, and we got married right out of high school, primarily because she was pregnant, and we had 2 children together by the time we were 20 years old.
Whoa!
So I was 19, had my daughter. I was 20 when my son was born. When my older son was born.
Wow. Okay, that's heavy. That's heavy. So
load. Then completely changed careers. A few years later.
Yeah.
And going to a 100% commission job, and everything success started coming, and I started seeing that there was a different world outside of Alvin, Texas. So about a year into it, I moved out of Alvin and saw that there was a bigger world now. Mind you, at the time, I had been out of Alvin and into Houston like maybe 5 times. I grew up in Alvin. We stayed there. Never had the means to get outside of that town. I think we went to Astroworld like 3 or 4 times. And
the big city.
And it went into the big city, for maybe a half a dozen times max until I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
So, and after that, I started selling new homes and was doing very well. And missed, it was a 7-day-a-week job.
Oh yeah.
So there was times I would be dating and I would miss a date, or something would happen, and until the woman that I had asked out for 3 years straight kept telling me no, she finally said yes, kind of thing. Not if I wore her down or what happened. And 3 months later we were engaged. 10 months later we were married, and that was 23 years ago that Colleen and I got married.
And that was Colleen who kept saying no to you
for 3 years. 3 years straight, she said no.
I need to have her on the podcast and hear her side of the story.
She'll tell you the same one.
So, I mean, I love this. This is just incredible. But in that, so in your own financial success through your own efforts, how much of what you do you feel is talent versus hard work, or a combination of both?
I think it's 100% luck from my standpoint. But what's the definition of luck? Preparation and opportunity.
Meets opportunity, yeah.
Okay. So, me, no different than I have told my older children as well as my younger children. Tell them, you go out there and be the best that you're going to be. If you hire me to go and sweep your garage, I'm going to sweep that garage better than you've ever seen that garage sweep before. I'm going to be the best.
My father told me the same thing. Yeah.
So when you see me doing that, you're saying, damn, every time Bill's out there, he's out there working. He's out there, man, he's the best garage sweeper I've ever hired. I need to see if he's good at doing this.
So because of your effort to excel at one thing, that opens the opportunity to excel at others.
So I tell people that all the time, young people especially.
I can't believe I got it right the first time.
whether it's kids
yeah.
or whether it's even adults, or younger generation, 20s, 30s, when they ask me, how do I get to where you are? And I tell the same story. My older son was working for BMW up here on the north side, BMW North, as a porter. And when he was there, he would walk by and he would see the older guys walk by the trash can. The trash can was overspilling, and somebody needed to walk over and pick it up and take it. At one point, he walked over and said, guys, look, if you just do this and get it over with, it takes 30 seconds. Look, the trash is done. You don't have to continually walk by it and try to fake like you're doing some other. These are grown men at 18 years old. He's telling this. He was promoted twice in the next 3 months because he took the initiative and he took to that attitude, because when those guys in there saw him in there moving a car, he would run to the car. When they had him behind the broom, he was sweeping the floor. He wasn't, just kind of pushing it. And like the kids at Lowe's. You go to Lowe's, Home Depot, go to the lumber section.
Yes.
They won't look at you, will they?
They
will not, because they're afraid that you're going to ask them to do something.
Yep.
Now imagine what's going to happen with that one young kid that you walk in and you see that kid and he goes up and says, hey man, how can I help you? And he's like ready and he's there to do it.
That's my favorite guy of the day.
Then you may walk over and say, you know what? You need to maybe come work for me because you've got that attitude. And then all of a sudden a guy like me hires a kid like that or a person like that, and then they start doing better and it increases the value of what they're worth.
See, and it's funny because that's the same story that they told about my grandfather. And I heard him tell a version of it because, how when you hear the story told by multiple people over years, details here and there, but ultimately that was it. He was climbing poles for the electric company. And a gentleman who owned a company said to him, hey, young fella, and this was during the Great Depression, just before the war. He was climbing electric poles because back then he'd gotten that job with the REA, the Rural Electrification Agency, and FDR was trying to bring electricity to all of America, not just towns that had a railroad in them. So he's out in Colorado, putting up poles, hanging wire. And this gentleman in a nice outfit and a real nice car pulls up. Hey there, young fella. I'm looking for the guy in charge here. I said, that's me, hang on. So he comes down off the pole. I said, what can I do for you? And he said, well, you see that cabin up on that there mountain there in Colorado? And he says to him, I've been trying to get electricity up to my cabin up there for about a year, and all I've been getting is a lot of talk. How do I make that happen? And my grandfather said, well, I'm new here, but I am the supervisor of this crew, and why don't you give me about 30 days, let me see what I can do. 30 days on the dot, that same fancy car with that gentleman pulled up, and he saw the poles laid up the mountain. I want you to come work for me. That's exactly how it happened for him. Let's just say he did all right.
That's good. That's good. And that's what it takes. I mean, quite honestly, is it takes the perseverance, it takes the work. It's when you see the kid that's standing around today and he's on his phone versus the kid that he's got his phone's in his pocket and he checks his phone at break, or he's out, keeping his feet moving the entire time. Yeah. Those are the kids. Those are the people that in general that you're watching for, right?
The kid who's working for me right now, he started working for me last summer, and his aunt calls me in a panic. My son just graduated from Rose Hill Christian with honors. He told his mom and dad he doesn't want to go to college. He wants to be a mechanic. Oh, well, goodness. What happened there? Well, I was hoping you could find out, Frank. Would you mind having coffee with him and talk to him? Either talk him out of it or at least point him in the right direction. Had coffee with him, and now he works for me. And he's just turned 19, and he's fantastic. And his phone has a full charge at the end of the day because he doesn't even look at it. If it's at lunch and it's beeped, he'll pull it out and look at it. The rest of the time, he wants to work on a car or learn about working on a car.
Yeah, that's the kid. That's the person with hustle.
Covered up in it. And when we had the coffee, I asked him, I said, "Okay, you graduated with honors from an expensive, well-regarded Christian school here, and your parents spent good money to send you. Why don't you want to continue on to the university?" And he had darn good reason. And it was a 100% sober, mature decision on his part that was perfectly reasoned from fact, and I couldn't argue it. So, well, let's get you going in the right direction, because the big thing I learned from him, because we learn from everybody, I had no idea what the path was for someone to go from zero to master technician in the automotive industry. Because when people ask me, I laugh like, I've never been to school. I was working on race bikes when I was in college for finance. And when I graduated, I went to master's school for IT. Got my master's degree in that. And when I was done with that, I was using that to figure out the computers for this newfangled fuel injection they had on motorcycles. And I was managing a crew chief for a race team, winning national titles. Again, hustling, 2 jobs or 3 jobs at any given time. But in that, when I opened my shop, it was because I wanted to work on my stuff. And I needed more expensive equipment to do that. And I could afford the equipment, but if I want to spend that much money, I want a tax write-off. I want to start a company. And helping out people I knew from the track. That's all that is.
That's the relationship that you built and the trust that you built, and people trusted you to work on their stuff.
None of those guys asked me how many Porsche schools I've been to.
Yeah.
No, I've figured it out. A lot of research, ask questions, hustle.
Yeah. I don't have a college degree.
Yeah.
I didn't go to college. My wife doesn't have a college degree.
And you're running, how big is your company now?
We're a $60 million a year company.
How many people?
30 people. I feed 1,000 people a week.
I was going to say, you've got crews. So.
Yeah, no, we have crews and stuff, and so I've got about 1,000 people, that work for me on a continual basis.
No college degree in that. What?
No, make a pretty good living doing it.
It pays for Lamborghinis
and Ferraris, and yeah. So,
if y'all want to go see the video and pictures of that castle you're building out there, is that in Willis, Conroe? Where?
It's in Willis.
It's in Willis.
Yeah, it's out in the county. It's in Montgomery County, but it's a Willis address.
And how many acres?
We're on 65 acres.
65 acres. I thought it was like 10, 15.
No. It's a larger tract, and it's not that large, but it's a larger tract. We're literally digging 20 acres of that into lakes right now.
Wow.
So
that's exciting.
That's the videos and stuff that you see today are part of that excavation process right now.
All right. So do you get to drive the equipment there, Bill?
Yeah, I know how to work every piece of equipment that's out there, and so not only not do I just own the equipment, but I can actually get out there. My 12-year-old son last year, he was 11 during the summer. He worked 60 hours a week for me during the summer. I'd drop him off at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd pick him up at 6 or 7 at night, and he would get on my big excavator and dig and load 30 to 50 dump trucks a day that he sat there and loaded.
11 years old.
At 11 years old. And he today, at 12, he can run a bulldozer, he can run an excavator, he can run a front end loader, pretty much any piece of equipment. I've got a big 80-ton articulated dump truck that's basically the size of a 4 dump trucks, the load of it.
Ooh.
He can run that. It's an automatic. My other dump trucks, he doesn't have the leg strength to push the clutch on the other ones, but yeah, pretty much any piece of equipment. And my two younger daughters, who are 14, about to be 14 and 15,
and they are precious.
they're wonderful children, absolutely wonderful.
They are
children.
good kids. I mean,
and the girls can run some of the equipment as well.
I've always said this: the child labor laws are what's killing this country.
No, it's not about child labor laws. When you number one, you're doing it on your own property. You own the equipment. I own the company. And so the company can pay them, and even at a younger age, there are actually tax incentives for me to not have to pay taxes, as well as for them not to pay taxes on up to a certain amount that I can pay them, because they're my children and I own the company. So yeah, all of the other stuff is we're 100% cool on labor laws or anything else.
I was joking, but I just learned something new. Listen to Bill. Oh my gosh!
No. You were joking, but somebody will take that seriously.
That's true. That's true, man.
We just got to clear all that up.
No, you're right. It doesn't take long for someone to take something funny.
But there's tax advantages of it to hiring your own children. Is my point. Where you can avert some taxes. By having your own children working for you in your business.
We need to talk. My daughter's 12. I need more. I could use her for marketing.
You could. You can pay her $12,000 a year, tax free.
Life's good. Life's good. I love it. So, clock's ticking. How are you for time right now?
I'm good.
Okay, because I'm always worried about, because people like yourself, time is short and valuable, and so I never want to waste a minute of it, and I don't want to have to keep you in here longer than you absolutely have to go.
Well, it was important for me to come and support you in your podcast, and as well as your business, and be here for you today.
Well, I'm enjoying talking to you because I can keep you here all day. So I want you to stop me because I'll keep going.
Yeah, we can. We've got we're almost to an hour, so we're good on that.
I mean, so when you started this and you went. Boom, you were 23 going full commission. After changing careers, divorce, 2 kids, and then stress levels unimaginable by kids today. At what point did you think, you know what, I think I'm going to pull this off? Because I'm sure you had doubts, I'm sure.
The only doubt was probably day one. So let me tell you the 2 stories of my training in the construction world.
Okay.
In sales, in new home sales. Now, I barely swung a hammer. I built a backyard shed one time, but I can figure things out. And,
right.
And again, I'm very mechanically inclined, where I can
You're
watch
a problem solver.
And observe. My training was the president of the company walked me into this brand new big model home, probably a bigger home than I'd ever been in my life, and said, okay, here's the house. He kind of walks through and demonstrates the house. Says, okay, here's this young girl. She's over here, this 18-year-old hostess. That she's been here about 3 weeks. She'll show you where the paperwork and stuff is. Good luck. And he walked out. That was my training into how to sell a home.
Ooh.
And I did very, very well in my first year. I did even better in my second year. Fast forward to year 4. Year 4, still doing very well. Making over 6 figures as a young 20-year-old or 20.
Yeah, 4 years later, you're only 27.
Late 20s, 27, 28 years old. I had one person I sold a home to, and he was a little bit older than me, and I say a little bit, he was probably 15, 20 years older than me, and he wrote on a comment card that he knew more about construction than this young sales guy did. I said, okay. So I took that, again, as a learning experience, and when I sold out of the community that I was in, down in Sugar Land, they didn't have another spot for me. And so instead of going to another home builder and working still in sales, I went to work for another home builder in construction. I took a $100,000 pay cut in order to go learn how to build houses. I built houses for 2 years in Tomball and over in Stonegate, a community over off 290. And in that, after that 2 years, then in 2001, I said, you know what? I'm going to go and start a construction company and do this on my own.
Okay, so
that was 21 years ago, and I've never looked back.
Yeah. So when you say you went to go build homes, what job did you transition into?
So I was a construction superintendent. So now instead of selling the house, I was the one responsible for coordinating all the trades, making sure they showed up, inspecting the home, bringing independent inspectors in, and so forth. And guess what my training was when that happened?
I'm afraid to ask.
President of another home building company comes up and says, "Okay, we just bought this other builder out, and this is over in Canyon Gate, North Point, in Tomball. And here we've got these 7 houses under construction. We've got these 8 other ones that we're just starting. These 7 are ones from the other builder. We need you to get somebody in there, get those cleaned up and everything. And let me know if you need anything. Good luck." And that was my instruction into how to build homes. And so what did I do? I drove around to different neighborhoods and I talked to other superintendents within the company. And then how did I find my trade base? I drove to other neighborhoods and looked for the framer that was framing the house, went up and got his information. I looked for the painter. I walked up. I wasn't afraid, And shortly after that, I started learning Spanish because I saw that was an important trait to know. And so it's extremely important from my standpoint and in the construction world for people to understand. You might say all day long, oh, no, the Spanish, they need to learn English. Well, we're one of the few countries that's basically a one language
country. Exactly.
Country.
People don't realize, yeah.
So so you walk up and say, hey, how much do you charge? And they say, oh, no habla inglés. And they walk up and I walk up and they say that to me. I say, oh, no problema, yo habla español. Now all of a sudden the wall comes down. Now there's a trust factor. Now we can communicate. Now I've taken the time to learn your language, and now all of a sudden you start talking English back to me because I knew you talked English in the first place. So I've been very successful, and over the years, instead of the $100, the $1,000, or the $100,000 job, then I started getting the $500,000 or the $1 million job, and that's where I started becoming just a little bit better and a little bit better, and I became one of the go-to guys in the entire Houston market. When someone of a higher net worth wanted something special done to their home and they wanted to spend an excessive amount of money, then they called me. They didn't call me to come bid a job because I'm not going to go spend 6 months bidding a job with you for you to choose the guy next to me for $50 less. So if you wanted me,
crazy?
If you wanted me to do it, then you called me and said, Bill, I need you to come do this job.
End of conversation. I'll get the bill. I'll pay it.
Pretty simple. You trust me. Because I'm going to walk up to you at that time. I walk up and say, okay, you want to spend $2 million. You want to add 4,000 square feet to your house. You want to remodel your bathrooms and your kitchen and whatever. Okay, I can make that happen. And you say, okay, well, how much money do you need up front? And I say, none. What? Hold on. You're a contractor. What do you mean you don't need any money
Every
up front?
contractor needs money up front.
Not me.
Because?
Because I was very successful and ran a very healthy company. And so I get paid last. And I still know that I need money in order to do the next job. So was never the guy who robbed Peter to pay Paul. I wasn't the guy who needed your money to do my job. Now, instant trust, right? Absolutely. Let me come in there. Let me pour that foundation. Let me get $100,000 ahead of you. And then when I need money, I'll let you know. And, I may come up and say, okay, we poured the slab, we framed, we put the roof on. I'm $400,000 or $500,000. Hey, man, you mind writing me a check for a couple $100,000? Yeah, no problem. Here you go. Because you're still ahead of me. And so once word gets out about something like that, about something that's new, not new, but a different way of thinking, all of a sudden you get referrals. So, hey, man, who did that? And did they do a good job? Yeah, man, this guy doesn't want any money up front. Whoa, hold on. I can trust that guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's obviously legit. So
did very, very well. And then just over time, I kind of figured out that I don't really like rich people. So we started a home building company 6 years ago, and we build the.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to break it up because your stories are incredible and you tell them so well. So mind breaking that down because I would translate that as one thing because I think I can relate a little bit being in the level of car industry that I'm in, and I catch myself going. Did you have a lot of those frustrating moments at that end of the house?
Yes. So when I was doing all the higher end jobs, you go into somebody's house and you're in a $10 million home.
Yeah, there's a lot of those in Houston.
You want to do $1 million, $2 million if they want to do a renovation on that home, and they want to live there with me for the 12 to 18 months that we're doing a project.
And they don't like the extra noise and the dust.
They don't like the noise, the dust. I'm very upfront. I'm going to put up a curtain wall. I'm going to do the best I can to keep the dust down, but we're not going to dust your valuables. Because one of my guys is going to knock something off and he's going to break that, that $1,000 piece that you've got or whatever. Have your housekeeper do it. Yeah. What happens day 2? Mrs. Smith comes to me and says, Bill, there's dust everywhere. Can you have somebody? No, ma'am. Do you remember? We talked about this early on. I set the expectation, the proper expectation that here's the situation. And then the other thing, you get down to the bottom. And it's, this one little piece is bent or whatever. Okay, well, I got to get the part and I got to do this. And it's going to take me 2 weeks and I'll get back to it. But I need to go ahead and collect that last check. Well, no, I'm going to hold this $200,000. Well, no, do you remember whenever I first came to work for you and I didn't require any money up front and you trusted me, right? You trusted me that I said I was going to do what I said I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you
When
need
have
to
I
trust
failed?
me today. Then you need to trust me today that I'm going to come and I'm going to do exactly and I would end up getting paid. And I never had a problem. I never had to put a lien on somebody's house. I do multi-million-dollar deals on a handshake. Literally, nobody does that. I did, and was very, very successful at it. And just over time, it got draining.
Because
It was just you're living with somebody for 18 months at a time. And so rather than now today, we started building affordable housing. And instead of someone being as critiquing, they're crying and hugging your neck because they never thought they were going to be able to afford a home until we put a product on the market that fits everyone.
okay, so we got a couple minutes. That's not a small transition or an easy transition in anybody's mind. How'd you pull that off?
Same thing.
I mean,
doing something.
like what made you identify it and say, "Ooh, I think that's opportunity. Let's go."
So funny enough, I had a guy who was one of my welders. He came to me and he wanted to borrow some money. I said, "Well, man, sorry, I don't lend money. Go to your bank for that." He said, "Well, yeah, I really need it. I've got these 3 lots over here. I'll sell you really cheap, $10,000, whatever the number was, and you could double your money on it, overnight." I drove the neighborhood, I looked at it, I said, "Okay, I'll do this deal." I gave him the money. He deeded me the lots. 6 months later, the lots didn't sell, and so I said, "Well, we'll just start some houses." I looked around at every home builder in the entire Houston surrounding market and said, "Who's the least expensive guy in town?" And I picked the 3 that were the 3 least expensive ones, and they were roughly $139,000, $140,000 what they were. $139,990, the special number that they put in. And I always thought that was the dumbest thing. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to build a 125, a 135, and a 145, and I'm going to put those on the market."
Okay, now I got to stop you there because that is not a small point you just made, because there's entire careers in this world based on pricing and the psychology of it. Putting that 9, gosh, I've heard the importance of putting that 9 by the price forever, and you've just blown all that out of the water in a single statement.
So you know why? Because when you do that, you're banking on people don't understand. It was so a lot of it started out it was initial searches online. If I'm looking for under $130,000 house, then I'm going to look for, if you put 130 in, it's going to, that 129,990 is going to be at the top of the list, right? Because it's under 130.
Right.
Okay. Well, common sense tells us that's a $140,000 house. So why not just put it a $130,000 house? So that's what I did. I said, "Look, we're regular people. I don't have to try to trick you into how to do a search.
Right.
Let me tell you, it's 125, 135, and 145. Let me just be straight with you. No different than being straight with one of my high net worth clients that was be straight with me about how we're going to do things and about money and not being afraid to talk about money." So I didn't cut the first blade of grass, and I sold the first 2 houses. I got to frame on the 3rd house, on all of them, and I sold the 3rd house. And so at that point I said, I've got something here. There is a need and a niche out there for a truly affordable market for me to build houses.
Now, how do you define affordable market?
Everybody else today, go try to find a house under $200,000 in this area.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I'm laughing because, I mean,
mom and pop, Chuck in a truck, Jose with a hammer, and me. I'm the only scaling.
Mom and
pop, Chuck in a truck, Jose with a hammer. I get a laugh every time.
I'm so glad we're recording this right now because I want to remember that.
So that's basically is the gist of the story. We went from our first 3 houses to we'll do close to 400 homes this year. We'll do about 700 next year, and then we'll continue to grow from here forward.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible.
And I'm the only one today in the United States who is scaling the truly affordable market. When I say affordable, my homes they're apartment style homes, but there's no common wall. right?
Okay.
It is an individual house for $117,000 today that someone can own for $750 a month, $800 a month, somewhere around there, because the interest rates have risen a little bit.
Yeah, try and get an apartment for under $1,500.
Yeah. Well, now instead of renting that $1,500 apartment, come buy a house for $0 down for $800 and put that other $700 back in your pocket. Now we're changing lives
Dramatically, yeah.
consistently.
Okay, so from those first three, you turned that into, I guess you had your crews and your teams and people available to build things. So how do you redirect that effort, that talent that you have you have a talent base at your disposal at this point? What sort of challenges do you face? And that's a completely different way of thinking.
So the things that we run into today are, we don't really have a problem with vendors or with supplies or with trades. We treat everyone very, very well. And again, I get paid last. So every 2 weeks, we cut a check. Even if it's our supplier who gives us 90-day terms. Bill's not due for 90 days. Whatever they put in to be paid on, in every 2 weeks, they get a check. Doesn't matter. I don't care whether they don't want it for 90 days. I early pay it, and they get a check. So my vendors, my suppliers, my trades, they're happy to work with me.
They get paid no matter what.
Rather than the larger, maybe a different company may push that out in 90 days before they cut that check on day 91.
And they've got their people in place who do nothing but make their living making phone calls, asking for money.
So we don't do that. We don't do that. And so most recently, as everyone knows, there's been a material shortage. There's been a transportation or logistics shortage. We have no problem getting supplies. So when there's a problem, let's say for windows, for instance, windows used to be 7 to 10 days we would get our windows. Mm-hmm. Today it's 12 weeks.
Oh.
You know when we order our windows? When we apply for the permit.
Yeah,
before we ever even start the house.
Because so you know what they're going to look like.
We just manage the process differently today than what we used to. And our newest community, Marie Village over in Conroe, off of 105 in Crockett Martin area, it's the first phase, 190 units. We released 110 units off the bat. We sold 90 of those in 2.5 months. So about 3 months that we sold. Almost everything that we sold that we did. We'll sell that first phase one of that community out by July. In 4.5 to 5 months, we'll sell almost 200 units in that one area because we're pushing them out and pushing them out. And we'll build all those units by the end of this year.
That's incredible. I mean, so in a house of this size, the margins have to be smaller.
Well, the houses are smaller, and the margins,
price is smaller.
The margin reflects. So my smaller home, my loss leader, that we've got. We don't build a whole lot of those, and so we don't spec those out. But it certainly gets the traffic in the door. And then marginally things grow as the homes get larger. The larger square footage, especially if I'm going a 2-story versus a 1-story, it costs a little less to build a 2-story than a 1-story. But everybody wants a 1-story. I mean, for the most part,
it does cost less to build a 2-story.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Usually about 20% less. So the two largest individual items that are on from a house standpoint are your foundation and your roof.
Okay.
So if you got a 2-story, you got a whole lot less concrete.
That's right. Yeah, less concrete.
If you got a 2-story, you got a whole lot less rafters, plywood, shingles, everything else that goes according to the roof.
Makes sense.
So all of that part of it. Now, all of the frame in between, it doesn't matter if it's on the side or if it's on the top. It's the same amount. You've got subfloor now that costs a little bit. That may be a little bit more, but effectively you're about 20% less in building a 2-story than building a 1-story.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I love the 1-stories because my niece love 1-story homes.
Not your niece, your knees.
My knees, joints, ouch. Wow. I mean, you're blowing my mind here. I'm loving this 110%. I don't know. Are you worried that we didn't talk enough about cars?
Yeah, it's funny. It's you invited me as the guest, but we had great conversation.
Well, that's it. But the thing is, everybody in here is here on business. I mean, everybody's got something to do. Like for example, Eric, he's transitioning out of the automotive industry into distilled spirits, Clutch Distilling.
I had heard about that.
Yeah, he brought some in. I sampled it. Strong, powerful, smooth. But another example of a guy who's working 10-hour days at his job, 12-hour nights at his business.
Yeah.
And he's pretty darn close to being able to transition out.
That's good.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well.
And that's what it takes.
Yes.
That's exactly what it takes. It takes that hustle. It takes that stamina. It takes that kind of work ethic to get to that next level.
And I'm just asking, like, well, who am I going to call at Lamborghini for my parts? Because these other guys I've talked to them, they don't know parts well, you know. And I wish I could manage parts movement as well as, say, homes, because in the exotic car world, when I need a part, I don't know what I'm going to need until I'm in the job.
Yeah.
And then I got to order the part, and there's nothing more frustrating than have a car part on your lift. We don't have.
And now you can't get it off your lift because you got a wheel off, or you got whatever it might be. Because now you're stuck in time.
Yeah, because the success of your shop is a lift is your source of income, and it's got to produce per day. I'm sorry, your cars are part of my lift the next 2 weeks, and it's a $3,800 job.
Hope you got some other little stuff to do in the meantime.
A lot of oil changes.
Well, even that, you need your lift in order to get. You better have a secondary on that deal.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
so.
we got the alignment rack and the 2-post, and then I maintain the 2-post at the retail location. But yeah, it's very much a work management situation because fortunately, again, I do it as much for the tax write-off as anything. But the fun of it for me is bringing this young guy along, and he's learning so fast.
That's good.
And I didn't think I knew anything until I had someone to teach.
Interesting enough, right? Yeah. I mean, that's so. I look at myself as I continually am teaching all of my guys, and it doesn't matter whether it's about social aspect, whether it's about being in their career, whether it's about working with their family or spending time with their family, and all of these different things. And the more people who work for me, and the more lives that I touch, I'm able to help more people over time.
Right. And so, yeah, that's another thing. It's like, if I could just, but I laugh about, this kid is working for me, how good he is. But let me tell you how many kids I went through to get one.
I understand that. I completely understand that. We looked the other day, Colleen and I were sitting, we were looking to hire someone, whatever the position was. And we looked back at the people who have gone through my office, and I think it was like almost 200 people
in the trades.
past 5 years.
Yeah.
Not the trades. I'm talking about just employees who have come and gone.
Out of 30 in house,
with rough number 30 that we've maintained.
So it is a 10-to-1 plus ratio to get.
if not more. So
yeah,
it's pretty tough finding the right people.
And that's the challenge. I've said it so many times in my own career. The key to someone's success isn't their own talent at what they do. It's their ability to grow and lead a team.
Yeah.
And that goes through any and all endeavors. As a history buff, you see that pattern repeat back through time for literally thousands of years. Even just things that you wouldn't think would be team-oriented, like artwork. Everybody's heard of Michelangelo?
Yeah.
Well, he was the first generation of masters of the Renaissance. Okay? And anybody who's had a chance to go to Italy, you see how many things in Rome have Michelangelo's name on it. And you're like, okay, there's no way one guy did all this. And that's true. But what they don't realize is that he had a studio. And in his studio, he had, on average, 20-plus artists working for him. And they weren't just turning out stuff. He was teaching them and guiding them and critiquing them and developing their skill as an artist to where they finally made something to his liking that he could put his name on and put it out and send it. And to the critics of that who say, well, so it's not his work then. He didn't do it.
Ultimately, it is. Still got his name on it.
Still got his name on it.
All these years later, we're still talking about him.
Right, exactly.
Not whoever his principal was.
Well, and the people who worked for him would go on to become that second generation of Renaissance masters. And the key to their success or for getting that start was coming from Michelangelo's studio. That's the only reason anybody ever gave him a look. Now, mind you, they were really good. Right? Yeah, they were trained by who? Michelangelo. That's a nice thing to have on your resume as an artist.
Yeah. So, talk about things on your resume or things coming up. We do have Lamborghini Festival coming up
in October.
Is the big thing that we've got that's coming up. Just trying to remind everybody about that. We should be turning on registrations in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
We're just finalizing venue so that we can make the announcements about it here before too long.
Are you gonna my brain's not working. Do you want to have it more out this way or more downtown, or the one year they had it all the way down at the NASA Space Center?
So we've got so this is 10th year anniversary, and so we may do a splash of several of those items. Where Friday night's one place, Saturday morning somewhere else, Saturday lunch is somewhere else, Saturday night somewhere else, Sunday the festival is at X location.
Yeah.
So we're still in the planning phase of that.
Would you do an extra day? Because 10th anniversary is a big deal.
No, we're still going to do it 3 days. We were talking about cutting it down to 2 days because we thought that 3 days was pretty long.
It's exhausting.
And I assure you, last year was our first year to do it. By Sunday night, it took me 2 days to recover. From after 3 days.
Oh, that's an endurance run for sure.
Yeah, so
it's like my first endurance race in a car. My wife was taking phone calls from people asking about me, like the people I've raced with. She goes, it's Tuesday, and he's just now starting to wake up. What did y'all do to my husband?
Yeah. It takes a little while to recover.
It does.
It's what it does.
They don't understand what goes into it. Yeah. So I'm just so happy you could come down today, Bill.
Well, thank you for having me. I truly greatly appreciate it. I'm glad I was able to come and support you. Lamborghini Club of Houston. If you guys are anyone who's interested in, just reach out. You can find us on Instagram at Ellison Collections. On Facebook at Bill Colleen Ellison. If you have any questions or anything else, and Lamborghini Club Houston is the Lamborghini Club Instagram. I don't know what the Facebook page is. I don't do that stuff, so I don't handle the marketing part of our stuff.
You've got good team people, members of your team handling that.
Yes,
because he's a team leader, and this is what we're trying to set that example: hard work and leadership.
Yes. So even though we didn't talk about cars the entire time, we did have some great conversation about leadership, about family, about a lot of things that we were able to talk about.
And that's it. Everybody who I'm having, they lead their own operation. Even young Alec Goodell. That for me as a sponsor during the Cup Car Championship and then later into the Pro Class, I watched that kid. That first season in the Pro Car. It was very different than the Cup car. Mechanically, it's very similar, but now we have the third dimension of aerodynamics involved. Before then, in a Cup car, it was Alec and the crew chief. Short conversation, go out and drive. Now we have Alec, crew chief, and a race engineer. It's all about how that chassis interacts with aerodynamics. And how do you drive it? The beginning of the season, Alec was listening and asking questions. And to watch him evolve in that one season, by the last race of the season, he's sitting them down and explaining to them how this car needs to be set up for him to go run fast.
He's a smart young man. He's a very, very smart young man.
It was a real blessing, joy, treasure to see that transformation happen in a young man. Look at he's all grown up. He's telling everybody what to do because he knows better. And I'm just like, I sponsored him.
That's funny.
So Anthony's leading his operation. You're leading yours. I promise you, Eric is running the show down there at Clutch Distilling. So again, hustlers, leaders, lots of initiative and hard work involved with everyone here. And I think that's the example. These are the traits that I think need to be celebrated and shown. Like the things that we enjoy in this world, they don't just fall out of the sky.
No. Hard work and perseverance, absolutely.
And a bunch of people hard working, persevering to make it happen. And I can't say it enough. That's end of the lecture. Everybody, I want to thank you for joining Bill and me here on today's episode of Talking Gearheads. I'm your host, Frank Lee, brought to you by Euro World Motorsports, and today by Lamborghini Club Houston. And do you want to make a shout out for your company that you talked about? The company, I don't even know the name of it for the.
So our homeowner company is called ASGI Homes, ASGIHomes.com.
Awesome, Bill. Thanks again for coming out.
Thanks, sir. Greatly appreciate it.
And thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned for the next good stuff coming on.